You are not Steph of Anime's dude. She has Jess back.
I just got the shiny! Josh, can you hear me? Oh my god, I got a shiny! The shiny! Yes! 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 Ah! 1 HP!
Can't hear it? At least not yet. Just give it a moment. There it is. Oh my god, please. What? Nice. No! Huh?
Today, we are joined by Twitch and Discord partner TheLegendOfZaheer, whose Zelda speedrunning channel is pulling in 10.7 thousand followers, where he has amassed more than 356,000 views. Zaheer, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Definitely. I mean, for those that may not know you, what would be the thing that they would most recognize you for?
So, what I'm most known for my channel is being a speedrunner of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, amongst other various Zelda games, but mostly A Link Between Worlds.
And inside of Link Between Worlds, you have some world records, don't you?
I do. I have the any percent world record at 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 1 second, and the 100% world record for 3 hours, 1 minute, and 31 seconds.
And that's just on A Link Between Worlds. You also have a Majora's Mask title record as well, right?
For the 3DS version, for
Okay.
the All Masks category.
Mm-hmm. And you consider a difference then between the 3DS versus other platforms. You don't. Are you more proud of the A Link Between Worlds, or is it a more common speed reckoning challenge to have?
The A Link Between Worlds is a lot more common for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful of people that also run the game as well,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing their best to push the game as well.
Cool. I hear you're headed to GDC in June. How are the preparations going for that?
The Summer Games Done Quick is the preparations for that is going very well.
Mm-hmm.
I have myself some roommates to stay with, and plane tickets, all that is all settled, so everything's going very smoothly. And all I have to do now is just practice my runs.
Mm. How's that practice been going? Are you putting in extra time compared to your normal practice sessions to just kind of keep up with the kind of concept you're going to be doing it live in front of people, physically in front of people?
Absolutely, I've been just primarily running 100%. That's the category I'm going to be running at SGDQ, and it's been going very well. I've been improving my times, and I'm really trying to push for the first sub 3 hours for 100%. I'm hoping for that. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to try.
Nice. Any insight to the training? Have you been able to get pretty close to that 3 hour limit? Do you think you're actually gonna you got a chance?
I feel confident about it.
Cool.
I got to keep pushing and get lucky with some parts. That's primarily that have to rely on a lot of luck. But at the same time, playing well when that moment comes.
Mm-hmm. How does performing something like speedrunning live in front of an audience differ from doing it on a stream? Are the nerves higher, or are you kind of already used to it since you do have a decent audience that comes to watch you?
That is a good question. I actually ran this game, A Link Between Worlds, on any percent. Back in October, they over at TwitchCon 2018, they had a GDQ X Games Done Quick X marathon during TwitchCon. It was only held over during that weekend instead of the usual full week that some of the GDQs do. But I ran any percent for that, and there was definitely a crowd full of folks in the background. It's definitely a much different experience. I was a bit nervous at first, but as I got, things kind of eased in for me as the run went on, and I got a lot more comfortable. So it's a good experience. I enjoyed it a lot. and I'm very much looking forward to the summer.
Very cool. I mean, clearly it went well. You got invited back. How did you actually? Let's jump back a little bit and get some context for people. When and how did you first start playing video games?
Uh, I must have been 6. I think I was 6 when I first played. My uncle gave away his NES
Mm.
that he was quitting video games for some reason. I don't know the details of that, but he gave all of his gaming consoles to my brothers and I. And the first game I've ever played and touched was Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES. It actually wasn't until much later in my life when I started playing Zelda, but Super Mario Brothers 3 was the very first video game I've ever played, and I'm glad it's a good old Nintendo classic. You can't beat it. It's
I mean, Super Mario is also a game that's commonly done on a speedrunning basis as well, with different games like Kaizen. Or we had a guest, GlitchCat7, come on, who was kind of an expert in this field. What kind of drove you to choose Zelda as your main title, considering it wasn't your kind of first introduction? What was the journey between to get you there?
so even though I got started with Super Mario Brothers, and it had a lot to do with my life growing up, but when I eventually got to Zelda, I had a lot more fun, and a lot more memories that's connected to the Zelda series than I do with Mario. Mario's mainly a starting point for me, but Zelda is where I really put my life into video games, pretty much.
I can hear you on that one. Zelda for me as well was one of the original titles, you know, like on the NES, or having the gold copy and coveting the silver one if you could ever see it, to being on the Game Boy, to the original kind of Link Between Worlds kind of model, the one that came before the sequel. And then kind of continuing further, did you play every single title along the way as well?
All of the main title Zeldas, yes, but not all of the spin-offs.
Which spin-offs have you yet to kind of jump into?
I haven't touched any of the Hyrule Warriors games.
Okay.
They and probably others out there that
I'm sure there's a bunch that didn't even quite make it over here that we don't even fully know. But there's a couple that are coming over that is getting some attention recently with the new Switch port of Link's Awakening. Will you be speedrunning that one, or did you ever play the previous one?
I have played the original version. I liked it a lot, so I am very much looking forward to the Switch remake. As to whether or not I'm going to speedrun it, what I have in mind to do first is to get the game on launch date, play through it, and to see how much I enjoy the remake, and see where it goes from there, really. And if I end up really enjoying the game, then I would consider speedrunning it. But if it turns out, even if I like it, but if I don't like it enough, then it wouldn't be the best thing for me to go and speedrun it. At least not for the long haul, at least.
What is your opinion kind of that new playstyle that they're pulling out of these sequel games? Is it similar enough to the original, or do you appreciate the kind of changes that they've been making to them?
In a Link Between Worlds case, everything is an improvement to me. With the movement's very smooth, slick. It's a lot of similarities to the original, but they've just improved upon that. It clicks really well with me. So
I know you spend a lot of time playing Zelda titles specifically on stream, but do you play any other titles?
I have once in a blue moon, but they don't really work out for me. So I like to keep my channel specifically just entirely Zelda content.
I was about to make a correlation between the Pokemon remake on Switch as well, and it's the similar but slightly different. It seems to be a cool trend. I hope they don't mess with Link's Awakening too much, but we'll kind of see how it actually ultimately ends up being. But definitely can see the kind of the additions of like the later Mario games and kind of how they impacted a link between worlds and kind of like that flat 2D style they do. And so it's interesting to see them slowly progress along the way. How did your online content creation begin? I see your Twitch and your YouTube are a few years old, but it took a while to kind of pop off like it does for most people. What can you tell me about this journey from the first video you made like 5 years ago on YouTube all the way to kind of where you are today?
So, okay. So, it started way back in November of 2013. I discovered another streamer by the name of Lethal Frag, and the thing he was doing, it kind of inspired me to start my own stream. So I saved up a bit to get a pretty strong laptop that can handle just streaming. And I ended up doing my first stream in back in February 2nd of 2014. That was when I did my very first Twitch stream, and everything that I have on my YouTube is just highlights taken over from brought over from Twitch, pretty much. And
interesting. So then you're one of the veterans on Twitch, as going back to 2013. The platform was only about 2 years old at that time. It's kind of interesting to see the fact that you continue to export your videos from Twitch to YouTube, but the average performance of every video has somewhat depreciated over the years. And it's the same content, like you said. You're kind of just doing the Twitch over to the YouTube model, which, you know, it's good for its own ability and the longevity that it has. But what can you kind of tell me as you've been able to see this change happen over the last 6 years or so? What has it been like for you?
So my journey throughout Twitch it's been a pretty complicated journey, which is why it's kind of taken me a while to kind of grow at a consistent rate. Because what happened was, when I first started streaming, this is going to sound crazy, but when I first started streaming, I didn't start as a speedrunner. I started off playing video games, Zelda games, using my feet only. Because, I don't know.
It does sound crazy.
Because I was thinking, what can I do to kind of stand out as someone starting out on the website? And I figured, okay, I've been kind of seeing this here, a little bit in other places, and I thought, okay, let me try it too. Let me try playing video games with my feet and see how that goes. And basically, my first stream was, okay, I play Majora's Mask. That was the Zelda game I first streamed. I played that from beginning to end in one sitting, and keep in mind, this is before I learned how to speedrun, so I didn't know any speed technique or anything like that. So I just had my feet on the game controller. I had a cam showing it too, and I went on for doing that for about a month. Yeah, like various other games. I played other Zelda games, and one of them included Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac at the time too.
Oh, cool.
I did that for a little bit, using my feet only. And then I figured after a month in, because I also worked a full-time job during that time, so I was coming into work with some pretty nasty feet cramps because of all the playing I was putting into that.
How was the gameplay?
So after once March was coming close, I was thinking to myself, I was thinking two different things. Can I do something that's not gonna keep me playing with my feet forever? And number two, how would I be able to only play Zelda and not have to worry about finding a new game to play every single time? And then I did some digging through, and I came across some speedrunning, people doing speedruns. I didn't know a whole lot about speedruns at all. I saw some of these folks doing the speedruns, and I was thinking, I have no idea if I'm even remotely capable of doing any of the stuff, any of the tricks, any of the frame perfect stuff that any of these other runners are doing. But then I sat down, took some time to try to do what they were doing, and to my surprise, I was getting some of the tricks down. Not all of them right away, but I was getting some down. Some I was learning, and then eventually I started speedrunning A Link Between Worlds by March 2nd of 2014. And then from then on, I was much more focused on speedrunning content over anything else. And it kind of helped a lot. A lot of really big speedrunners. Huge shout outs to ZFG, Demon, amongst many others. Bowie the Hero. They all saw the efforts I was putting, and they were helping me a lot by hosting and rating my channel back then. And because partnership back then, the requirement to get partnership was very high. And there was no affiliate program. I had to average about 500 viewers, concurrent viewers, to even achieve partnership. And eventually, I moved on into from A Link Between Worlds any percent to Majora's Mask, the original version of Majora's Mask in the 100% category. And that was when my channel blew up for the time being throughout the summer. And by August of that same year, August of 2014, and I got partnership. I got accepted into, I got the sub button for Twitch and partnership and all that good stuff. And I was riding some insane momentum for the time being. And what I had tried to do with the momentum, because one of the biggest problems I have is I try to please too many people too much. And one of the bigger issues I had was, how can I stream for a lot of people in different time zones, people overseas, things like that? Because the whole thing was just, a lot of people were so far apart, especially folks in Europe. They're like 5 to 6 hours from my time zone, my own time zone. So what I did to attempt to kind of fix that was I would do a lot of 24-hour streams, so that, there's something for all the time zones. So, and this was me doing Majora's Mask 100%, which at the time took me about 6 hours on average to do. And I was doing a bunch of 24-hour streams, so that's 4 full runs going in for each 24-hour stream. And basically what I did at one point to really ride that massive momentum I had going was I did 3 24-hour streams back to back to back.
Holy.
As in, I did a 24-hour stream, then I went to sleep for however long I needed. Then I came back, did another 24-hour stream, and then went to sleep for how long I needed. And then I did the third 24-hour stream. But by the third 24-hour stream, I started feeling really sharp pains in my chest. And I figured, I've always been such a healthy guy. And I've been getting a lot of sleep, even though I've been doing the 24-hour streams. But so, unfortunately, by that, I had to really slow down a lot, and then also I had to start seeing a doctor too, and the doctor told me that I had developed pericarditis, which is the inflammation of the tissue surrounding the heart. And that was when, okay, so 24-hour streams are gonna be much less apparent from that point. And the once massive momentum I had at that point was gone, unfortunately. And then the health bills started to pile up a lot in the meantime. And eventually I had to get a job, because the full-time job I had while working or while getting started on Twitch, I quit that in May of 2014. It was a fast food job I did. I wanted to live my dreams. I want to do something more than just work at fast food. But So by February, I got a I got a job at Costco, and I worked there for over 3 years. But during all those 3 years, I had a lot of my time go into Costco, so it whatever momentum I had in the beginning was just gone. It just slowly deteriorated over the 3 year period.
Mhm.
I worked at Costco, so it's a balancing. Attempted to do two things full time. It's not something everyone can do. That's for sure.
Especially not everyone with a heart condition.
Thankfully that I exercised a lot more. I was eating a lot healthier, so that didn't escalate into anything worse. And my health bills are all paid off, so that's
Nice.
thankfully that hasn't been an issue for over a year now.
Mm.
So
Are you back to being a full-time streamer?
yes, I am
Congratulations.
Thanks. This is attempt number 2 for me, and I'm learned from a lot of the mistakes I made way back then. I don't do 24-hour streams anymore. I cannot survive any one of those anymore. So that's out of the question.
Did you ever talk
But
to your doctor about that? Did they say it was directly a result of the strain from your successive,
I
or was it just
I
coincidental?
I told them everything about what was going on in my life, and they did say that being up for 24 hours, doing, especially when you're running a game like with the original version of Majora's Mask on the 100% category, where a lot of your focus was going into that, and I didn't take a whole lot of breaks either, which wasn't a good idea in the hindsight. But uh, but it's that momentum I really wanted to
Mm.
do my best to keep back then.
I mean,
And
wow. I mean, you hear about burnout so often, but you don't hear about the physical, medical toll of the burnout. And that sounds like that's basically what happened to you. I mean, I've never heard of anyone that's tried to do 3 successive 24-hour streams back to back in something that requires 100% attention, like a speed run.
but that's the thing. I personally, I don't really call it a burnout. I wanted to keep playing. I
Mhm.
wanted to play more Majora's Mask. I didn't
So,
want to stop.
so your
But
will didn't burn out, but your body burnt out.
my body gave out.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's rough, man. I think that means you're getting old, buddy. That's what my brother tells me.
Yeah.
But that's amazing though. You're able to become a full-time streamer twice. That's pretty impressive. A lot of people would have let that crush them when when their body gave out and they had to physically go get another job. That 3 years must have been both grueling and somewhat inspiring if it brought you back to this kind of journey. What was that aha moment for you? Both the first time to think that I could do this, and then the second time. How did you convince yourself a second time that you could do this again?
Oh, that's a very good question. So I after 3 years of Costco, and I only ever worked one position, and that's the deli section where the rotisserie chickens are.
Mm.
So from outside looking in, it doesn't look like much, but when you're behind the counter, excuse me, there's the closers for starters. You're alone. You're completely by yourself, and you got 3 massive rooms that have to be spotless. They have to be clean. You have to basically just work yourself to tooth to nail to bone. Just make sure everything is spotless. Because we also work with raw chicken, or I used to work with raw chicken, and that stuff, you got to make sure that all that stuff is just completely scrubbed out. And it's a lot. I mean, I'm well aware there's a lot of more grueling jobs out there for sure, and Costco definitely paid very well. But but what didn't help me is that Twitch was the only thing I'd ever been passionate about to do for a living in my whole life. I never cared for anything else before then. And when it came to wanting to do something for a living, and that just weighed on me for the entire 3 years I was working at Costco, and I kept telling myself over and over, do I want to be that person who is going to work at a job that I not that all that passionate about for 40 years just to regret it in my deathbed, or do I want to try it, keep pushing until I make it, and or make things possible for me, live my dreams. And I figured, this 3 years is already bad enough. I didn't want to live like that for 40 full years. So, because I had a lot of things in my mind going back and forth. As like, this is a safe way, the dreams. Some people's dreams just can't come true. Things like that that are constantly cycling in my head. And I was thinking, I can't live like that. I have to try, at least keep trying with Twitch. At least if I failed a second time, then at least I can tell myself that I've tried and I've tried again. So
what made you feel that you needed to try again after being successful, gaining the huge steam that you did, getting the partnership, which for a lot of people is the goal, and then having it taken away from you? What is it left that you wanted to achieve?
I just wanted to grow as much as possible. I probably would have still, I'd still be playing Zelda. I just not much would change. I just would wanted to grow at that point.
So then you're really in love with the process of it, the playing Zelda. Like you said, you didn't get burnt out. You still enjoyed the process. How do you keep that interesting for both yourself in doing 4 runs back to back, but also for your audience who would be used to kind of watching you play the same game for 6 years in a row? Speedrunning itself is kind of dynamic and consistent. How do you kind of play with that and keep it fresh?
So I can only speak for some of my longtime viewers. They love seeing me improve. And some of the Zelda games that I play are their favorites as well. And what I figured in my head at least is, if I can play and enjoy a game for this long for as many years, then there are definitely others like me out there that do feel the same way. And there are folks that will watch what they love over and over. And then when speedruns have things like luck involved, or RNG, random number generator for short, which technically is not the same as luck, but I can't play like frame by frame perfectly to control that, so it feels a lot more like luck. But that kind of, you'd be surprised by how much that can set each run apart from one another, to where it's not 100% exactly the same. Like, some things can happen in a run that's out of my control, to the point where I would have to adapt to what happened and go on from there and see if I can either still get a new best time, or at least just finish the run, if anything at all.
I think you kind of hit on there with a mathematical RNG, random number generator kind of principle. I've heard it compared to card games in a similar way. Why Magic the Gathering is so successful is because there is math, but the randomness of the deck allows for a kind of a probability that always keeps it interesting. But it also allows for people who are professional to always find room for improvement. It's just the luck. But it also gives the accessibility for people who aren't professional to realize there's a little bit of luck. I could probably get into it a little bit. Maybe that's keeping people a little bit more of the possibilities, and of course the impressiveness when you do actually string luck together and have a world record, because not everyone can be that lucky, right? There's got to be some skill in there. I could see it being alluring for sure. You've been streaming this for long enough though, where you've seen several different Zelda games come out in the process. The latest one would have been Breath of the Wild. How has the resurgence of Zelda on the Switch platform impacted your following?
I wouldn't say it affected it by much, really. I figured by the time Breath of the Wild came out, it was 2017, I think. And A Link Between Worlds was already kind of a little over 3 years old at the time, because that was released November of 2013. But so I figured after 3 years, if folks are still enjoying and watching, then I don't see that changing all too much. Not anytime soon, at least.
But you don't see just like a surge of people coming around to look at various Zelda-related game types when a new game comes out? Have you noticed any type of, seasonal surge or anything like that?
Maybe every now and then, but then sometimes some folks will come around.
True. I guess it's pretty much if you know the game, you already love the game and you're looking for it. So it's a little bit niche like that to be kind of attached to the larger trends, maybe. But let's get back to your channel a little bit. This is still a business, right? Like you said, this is your second time being a full-time streamer, and there's financials to consider in this. And without getting into specifics about how much you make or anything, you're currently investing in around almost coming up to 11,000 followers, and likely have enough subs to notice a difference in your monthly income. How do you think about this project as far as its creative outlet and its full-time career potential? Are you still trying to push it to a scale that you really are comfortable with, or how is this environment kind of sitting with like the bits and the ability to go out for these bounties?
So things things for me are slowly but surely growing, which is always good as long as I stay consistent, stay on top of things. And they've definitely gone up since I left Costco, and as and before I left Costco, I did save up enough emergency funds in case something happened, something like 4 years ago. If something like that ever happened again, then I'd be fully prepared for it this time around. Uh, but I have the time for now, and by the time limit I've given myself, by the time that comes around, I think no, I'm pretty confident in that I'll be fine.
Hmm.
Like I'll be able to financially just grow a little above
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff, and have some bit of stability.
So with that, that means that you're kind of tackling it a little strategically, I imagine. Or are you? Are you allowing the content to just grow and let the money kind of come in organically, or do you find yourself being strategic about going for things like bounties or partnerships, like with OPSEAT?
Uh, I do like organic. I don't mind partnerships. The chair is really nice. I like the chair. That's definitely very nice. But I'm a bigger I'm a bigger fan of organically growing my channel. If people enjoy what they see, they're more likely to come back than not, rather than to just go for uh, you know bounties by playing games that I'm not all that interested in. I I would if I whatever just has me still playing Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
or my favorite Zelda specifically, because I love Zelda, but not all of them are my favorites. But
Mm-hmm.
as long as I'm still playing the games I love, then I'm fine with, as long as I'm growing and being steady and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, I know you want to keep playing Zelda, but the audience that's watching you play Zelda has to impact what you do a little bit, right? Especially when something like speedrunning is very similar to competitive esports, and that you kind of have to keep your focus while doing it, else you'll mix that frame by frame kind of thing that'll make you lose a world record. Uh, it's got to be hard to chat and speedrun at the same time. Do you find yourself kind of leaning one way or the other, and how does that kind of inherent desire to grow your channel compete with that need to get that world record?
Well, the majority of the people that do watch me trying to improve either way. So
Yeah.
it kind of just works out for me. I've never had the issue of whether or not I'm losing out viewers because I'm doing this as opposed to something else. Because for my personal experience, when I've attempted to play a new hot game that's just released or something, that it's never gone well for my channel. It actually never has. So I just this is just something that just works for me.
Hmm. Do you see your stream shift depending on where you go with your conversation or your particular ability to perform the speed run that day? Like whether or not it's a new game, like if you're just you're not hitting all of the correct combinations, do you see your stream react, or are they just kind of happy to be there and enjoy to see you kind of deal?
If I'm playing a new Zelda, I mean, I've never played Breath of the Wild on my stream. I I've never done it on
Yeah.
stream, so that's I've never really been in that kind of situation. When Link's Awakening comes out on the Switch, that might be the
Mhm.
first time I'll try something like that.
Mhm.
So,
But what about even in your normal games? Like if you're just off that day, like you're just not quite playing. Well, first off, how many times have you played a Link Between Worlds?
oh, I've lost count a long time ago.
Is it like subconscious to you now? Can you just kind of perform it without really having to actively kind of think about the coming combo?
Only with the Link Between Worlds,
Mhm.
as opposed to any other Zelda game. But like even if I'm having a bit of an off day, which happens sometimes, I'm not playing my best,
Mhm.
and that's just I just accept it,
Mhm.
and a lot of my folks watching, they just a lot, at least to the best of my knowledge, a lot of them just seem to be happy to be there.
Mhm. I see a lot of your streams, like although you have 110 average concurrent users, technically, I see you range a little bit between like 70 all the way up to 400, and then once a week or once every couple of days, you'll end up shooting all the way up to a couple thousand, 1,400, 3,000 or something people watching you at once. What's going on there? Are your friends still hosting you, or what? How are you getting these spurts?
Yeah, another huge shout out to ZFG and Linkus. I forgot to shout him out as well. They've ever since I shifted back into the night streams, they've been especially ZFG has been hosting me a lot. That's the only way I get to 1,000.
that's
That's the only way.
That's awesome, though. That's a huge part of this, I imagine, of growing your stream is getting hosted of that size. How did I know you said that when you originally popped off, but in your first round of becoming a streamer, you also were coming across several different streamers you were giving shout outs to who did the hosting, which allowed you to kind of get that original traction in your 500 to be partner. It sounds like it's a little bit of that same environment kind of coming back. But if we could take a step back, how did you first kind of come across these guys to get those original hosts?
I When I first started running back then, they just appeared on my channel
they
just one day.
they just
A,
announced
a
on the
lot
show.
of a lot of the folks that I've met on Twitch, they just appear on my channel one day,
Mm.
and it just goes from there. Because I never, I should go out of my way to meet other folks
Yeah.
and like just to be more involved in social media. But a lot of the best things that's happened to me and my channel is it's been people just wandering into my channel and liking
Organic
what
is
they see.
organic
Yeah.
is right. You called it, man. That's pretty laid back. I enjoy that process. It's a little bit like the hunter versus the trapper. You set up a good quality content, and when they meander by, they're like, I like that. So if you're good enough, they'll naturally stay. But that's it's interesting that just by luck and probability, you stacked up enough to get such significant um, viewership and hosts.
Because my biggest worry when it comes to just kind of being too much out there, at least just too much, is like, oh, it kind of, I kind of feel like that I'm just spamming and just, being, hey, look at me, all that stuff. And, to folks that may or may not be interested, more often not interested than anything else. But if I'm just doing my thing and someone comes in and they like what they see, then it just goes on from there. It's always worked better for me than anything else.
Interesting. Um, who taught you to get this far then? Like, did you have a friend, or was it in a Discord scenario, or like, how did you kind of come across the information to get this far? You said originally you went in to kind of just like learn speed running. Did you have a similar source for your streaming career, or you're just kind of learning it as you go?
I just learn as I go. To me, out of any type of learning situation I've been in my life, whether it's school or on the job training, things like that, one thing that's the best way I've always ever learned is on the spot, just doing a thing and learning from there. Because I, I, I don't really get much out of just studying one thing for months or years on end, and then when it gets to the time to actually do it, then I'm like, I'm not experienced, so it's like I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
But I learning as I go for has always worked the best for me, whether it's on the job trading or and especially in Twitch's case.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm much the same way, although I probably pester my friends here in Discord a little bit too many times to fix things like bit rates and stuff. You still have to have friends in this field. I mean, you're a member of Noble GG, a prominent esports group and a connection of other good players. What could you tell me about the experience of being a part of a team like this, and kind of how did you come across this opportunity?
So, with I've only very recently have come into contact with Noble as a community streamer. I have to be very specific about that. I'm not part of the main team or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just a community streamer for them, and it's it's been a pleasure. It's the whole community is very friendly. Uh, the uh, the folks that I've talked to are very open, straightforward, transparent. Uh, and how I came to be with them in the first place, because since this second time doing a attempt at doing full time for me started last September, and I was thinking, okay, if I want to keep this as stable as possible, it would help to apply to some esports teams out there that hopefully accept speedrunners. And then I've noticed that Team Noble was one of them, but this one was kind of interesting because this is the only team that's happened in this scenario. So I was in the middle of just sending in an application on their website, and I didn't finish the application. I was just running out of time. I had other things I needed to do that day,
Mhm.
and then this was the only team that emailed me back and said that they were interested, and the email left for me to finish applying, and but I couldn't tell if that was an automated email
Mhm.
or if if they really if that's what they truly felt. But it's like, and then I just went back and finished the application, and
Mhm.
now I'm a community streamer.
Look at you. You tried to be active, and you're like, actually, I changed my mind. And then they came out to you, making it organic yet again. That's pretty funny. And don't knock yourself on the community streamer part of it. We deal with a lot of esports teams, and this is a really standard setup that they have. A lot of the streamer talent have separate contracts as far as the competitive talent. And when that happens, the streamers typically have a disproportionate advantage as far as the leverage of their branding. Typically, they're subcontracts separate from the original team. You're together, but because you have a following and an audience, you have, well, basically more exposure and more leverage than the average player does. So you're actually in a power position for the contracts to be concerned. But that's a whole other thing, and it's on their sides. It's pretty impressive that they saw you and they were like, saw your half filled out application, like, no, gotta make sure he fills this one out. That's really flattering in itself. Congratulations for that. Did you ever see yourself doing this kind of thing? Were you always so creative and technical?
Uh, as in becoming a or ever imagining doing something like full time
Yeah,
Twitch
yeah,
streaming or thing.
exactly.
So when I was really young, like when I never liked school. I my entire life I never liked school.
Yeah.
Like I had good grades and stuff, but I only did it because it's like I was told to do that. But I never cared for any of it.
Hmm.
And then I was like, even when I was a young kid, I'd always in my imagination I was like, what if there was a way to make money but just playing games, not doing anything else, just playing games.
Hmm.
What if? And I was like, if that ever happened somehow at some point or day in this world, I'm like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give it everything, because and I, fast forward to 2013 and I see Twitch and it's like, oh, this is it. This is what child me always wanted, hope for, that the future would have, and that this is now. This is that future.
That's exciting that you kind of, I'm sure like many of us, dreamed that gaming could be a profession. but you were prepared when you saw it could be. You're like, oh, that's what I've been waiting for. See ya, job, and kind of did it. That's pretty strong. Nice entry. I'm sure as a Twitch partner, you have faith in the Twitch platform. But are there other things you see on the horizon? Like, where do other streaming platforms fit into your mindset?
Nothing else. Twitch is. I'm dedicated entirely to Twitch.
She's a lucky lady. Look at you, so dedicated.
I've always have. It's even though it's been bumpy because of the last 3 years, specific like the second half of 2015, all of 2016, all of 2017, and the first half of 2018. It's attempting to balance two things.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, two things full time. Excuse me, that was the only reason I couldn't dedicate as much time to Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
But being where I am now, I will dedicate as much time as I can to Twitch.
Mm-hmm. What is their opinion now? Or rather, what is your opinion of streaming as a profession now that you've been in it for so many years? You've probably seen it shift a little bit. Where do you think it is as far as like a viable job opportunity, and kind of what do you see it becoming in the next couple of years?
I do think Twitch will only grow from here on out, despite even something as Article 13 happening, which I'm not gonna get into, but I think even despite that, I think Twitch, the only direction they can go is up at this point. If they've gotten this big, it's like they'd have to do some serious mistakes to kind of just die out, but I really don't see that happening.
Do you see anything that they kind of are coming out with soon, or that you hear is kind of being worked on that may be available? You know, so any improvements to the platform that you feel that they should be adding in order to help it keep growing like this?
I do have one that immediately pops in my head. It's sub badges and bit badges.
Mm-hmm.
I think giving people the ability to like choose which specific badge they want would be nice. Because the way I do my own sub and bit badges, it's not how a progressive like a progressing system would be. Mine's just different colors and designs as you're getting a new badge, and a lot of folks like the many different colors too. Like I got a green Z sub badge or a red Z sub badge, and some folks they just want one specific color. But I don't want to just do one specific color because there's currently 19 sub emote slots for partners, and that's a lot. I don't think I could do a green pattern for all 19 of those. So I think with an amount like that, I think if they would give some of the subs the ability to pick and choose the sub badge that they want to have out of all the ones they've unlocked, of course, then that would be pretty cool. Same deal with the bits, but it's fingers crossed. That's all I can do.
Yeah, no, it sounds like just a little bit of user customization would go a long way. Prevent that kind of inhibition of like, oh, I wanted the third tier, or nah, never mind. You can kind of get a little bit of that lower hanging fruit of people necessarily. That's an interesting concept. What advice can you give someone who's trying to become a Twitch partnered streamer?
That's very good. That's a very good question. It's definitely prepare yourself financially if you are looking to get into full-time streaming. Have a backup plan. Your backup plans, your emergency funds, you be prepared, because things can and will happen. Things have happened to me, and it's taken me over 3 years to recover from what happened all those years ago. That has happened in a matter of less than 1 week. Be prepared for it, and don't make the same mistakes I did. 24-hour streams, at the time they were great for viewership. They probably still are every now and then, but personally I don't recommend that. That's not good for your health. Your health, that's especially important if you want to do this full time, your health needs to come first. If you are, whether it's your mental health, your physical health, all of it, you absolutely look after yourselves, because if anything's even slightly off, things will get very difficult very quickly. Uh, there's more. It's just escaping my head at the moment. Uh, uh, be consistent. Having a schedule helps. Some people somehow do it without a schedule, uh, but a schedule works better for me personally, and for perhaps for other folks as well. But whatever you do, be consistent at it. Consistency is probably your best friend, a bigger friend to you than a 24-hour stream.
Very wise words. I think a lot of people overlook their health in this scenario while they're pushing for those high scores and the extra followers. That's one of the reasons why we do the chairs, is the back health and the consistent stacking pressures that you get. I mean, that can go as far as, like, you drink too many Mountain Dews, bro. You know, like, get some tea in there. You know, like, little things that just, like, you make sure you're being aware of what the stacking stresses of this job. Because it is a profession, and it's not, we don't necessarily have an environment that's been optimized for this profession yet. So it's really important to stay aware of kind of the new use cases that are coming up of issues. That's really wise attention. Of course, consistency, you went away and you lost a lot, but coming back, the consistency has allowed you to regain a lot of that already. So it's very firsthand experience, I can tell. What's your favorite accomplishment doing what you do over the last 6 years?
My favorite accomplishment is running at GDQX last October, because even after all these years of ups and downs and all that stuff, and I still had, you know, I was still able to do a speed run in front of a live audience, which was something I wanted to do for such a long time. So I'd say that was my personal favorite moment. And TwitchCon 2018 all around was the best, one of, if not the best trip I've ever had in my life. And I've had a lot of good experiences. I've traveled overseas, and but TwitchCon 2018, GDQX, one of the best experiences of my life.
Well, I know or they yeah, I know GDQX is GDC are two of, like, the biggest locations for speedrunners to kind of show up and do some of these actual technical executions. So just to be counted among those who are invited onto stage is a really big deal, and something that is so new. It's still hard to get access to that world. So it's really impressive accomplishment you've done. But there has to be some things that have happened over this period that weren't necessarily favorable for you. Of course, getting sent to the hospital's got to be up there. But what's the biggest learning experience for you?
It's easily the pericarditis situation. That's the biggest eye opener that has not only ever happened to me on Twitch, but one of them in life as well. I've had a lot of eye opening moments, but this was definitely the biggest one as far as being involved in Twitch is concerned.
Mm. Yeah, that would stand out to, I think, anybody, that your life was put in jeopardy, basically. And you're the first person who's really had such a significant health scare come up from the pressure applied from this, and it really stands out as being an interesting case. All right, you touched on TwitchCon 2018 just a second ago, and like I say, I was there. It was amazing. Are you going to 2019 as well?
I wish. 2019's in Europe this time around, right?
There's two of them. There's one in Germany, but there's going to be one in San Diego in September.
It's September.
Yeah.
I'll keep an open mind, but I don't have. I can't say anything right now.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, they haven't even put the tickets on sale yet. I believe they've only announced the venue, so people are just picking up hotel rooms in anticipation, basically. But tickets aren't even on sale yet, so you're not too late. That's really cool. When's the next event you're going to be at that people can come see you? GDC June, I take it?
SGDQ in June, yes. I will be there for most of the week, and my run itself, it will be on June 26th, which should be Wednesday during the week. And it should be around between 3 to 4 p.m. in their time zone because their event is held at Bloomington, Minnesota, and that's 1 hour behind my own time zone. So, yeah.
That's exciting. Are you? I'm sure you're bringing. Are you going to bring your wife up there to come watch you perform live in person and stuff?
Unfortunately, not. She will probably be busy with like work-related things.
Doesn't work and yet know what a big deal this is for you. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm sure she'll be able to watch though. It is televised and there are ways to kind of see.
To be fair to her, she's not big on video games, so
Really?
I wouldn't want her to take her to a week-long event where there's nothing she's remotely interested in.
That's fair. I think that's pretty standard as well between couples. It's good on you to not put her through that experience, but I'm sure you'll have time to meet out some of your friends and followers and stuff. I So this is kind of one of our last questions before we get into the things from the community. It's a little bit of a self-serving question, but in this environment, everyone kind of tends to have disproportionate feelings about one item that they own, whether it's their headphones that have the perfect dynamic range or that keyboard that's so good that you sleep with it. There's always something that typically have a favorite peripheral. So it doesn't have to be your OPSEAT, but what's your favorite?
It would be the chair. I like sitting.
It's such an easy question to seed. Well, I'm glad you like the chair. Do you have any other technical tools though that help you while you're speedrunning? I mean, maybe while you were doing it with your feet, your hands were free, but now you kind of need shortcuts and stuff. Do you have anything useful?
I mean, I have my 3DS. It's got a capture card installed that lets me connect it via USB.
Hey,
to my PC.
Custom setup with the capture card. That's not bad. Yeah, I saw you talking about your setup on your last stream. People were saying it was like cheating or something, having a slightly altered setup. Is there any variation at all? Like, what was it that was making it more difficult for yourself?
Well, having a capture card's
Doesn't it?
not cheating.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect anything. And I don't have anything else added. It's just the capture card. Other than that, the 3DS just works like normal.
Okay. Well, let's go on to some questions from the community here. What is your opinion on NTR streaming for 3DS? Do you think this is a viable option for people that would like to start running games like a Link Between Worlds?
So that's a very good question. Because very recently, another 3DS speedrunner did some testing and found out that NTR is much faster for A Link Between Worlds, and it kind of puts them in a tricky situation because there's also the issue with accessibility that's always been the 3DS speedrunning biggest issue is accessibility because these capture cards they're not cheap, and two, they are going the people making these capture cards are going out of business. So there's not a whole lot of opportunities left to get a capture card. So it's two conflicting things. I think they've come to an agreement about filtering the leaderboards, keeping them separate or something, which I'm all for. Just I personally, I was leaning more towards accessibility than anything else. I wouldn't mind the legality of NTR, but I wouldn't touch it personally. I have a capture card. I'm gonna make the best of this. I paid for this. So I'm gonna use this, but if other folks want to use it, I leave all that stuff to the community members. I don't make big decisions for them. I just do my own thing, and I go along with what rules they think is for the best. But my personal opinion, I would be fine with it just for accessibility's sake, because there really isn't a whole lot of ways to capture it aside from having a webcam on like your shoulder, your chair, or some sort of webcam setup, which not very favorable for a lot of folks. But I'm pretty open at NTR in general. It's just that's just my opinion. It's yeah.
Well, I mean, if there is a speed difference, you almost have to do another leaderboard, right? I don't think there's any way around it. But I think there'd always be a place for the physical capture card, especially IRL and stuff like that. So what keeps bringing you back to Zelda games? Is it the level design? Is it the puzzles? What about it interests you?
It's everything about Zelda. Everything about it. The puzzles, the level design, the gameplay, the many different items you get to play around with. It's just the characters. Everything that makes Zelda Zelda is what I love about Zelda.
Well, that's going to make this last question from the community a little harder. If you could change one core thing about Zelda, what would it be?
That's a good question. If I could change one core thing, hmm. I can't.
I stumped him.
I can't really think of core things. It's like little things here and there that I change or get rid of that are in some of the Zelda games, but nothing core really. I mean, I'm a bigger fan of like old school Zeldas. I mean, I know A Link Between Worlds is 2013, but it plays more. There was some of the older titles like A Link to the Past and all that. Because I'm a huge fan of A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, and most of those are on the older side. And I'm not against the direction they've taken with Zelda necessarily. I've just always appreciated the way they've done Zelda back then a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, I tend to agree with you. If there was ever one series or franchise in my mindset that's as close to perfect as you can get, it's Zelda. It's been the theme music for most of my childhood and adult life, so it's really cool to see someone pushing it in this technical way like you are. It's something that typically a lot of people just play through once or twice and kind of leave on the shelf until years come back, but to kind of have it consistently played like this is kind of a beautiful homage to just how really great it is. And in a way that you're not really breaking the game like you would with like a Kaizen type modifier. Like it actually is the true game, which really makes it a big difference as well. So I can't tell you how cool it is to see you do this kind of thing and leverage all these little quirks of the game and kind of discovering them in the next game. I'm sure is going to be pretty fun as well. I can't thank you enough for showing up today to this interview. You've done fantastic. Really good job. But for everyone here that's still listening, where can we kind of come find you and see more information about you?
There's my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TheLegendOfZaheer, and my Twitter account as well, Twitter handle @TheLegendOfZah. I would have loved to have Legend of Zaheer, but that's taken by a fan account for The Legend of Korra, Zaheer from that show, which I have no connection to. Zaheer is my actual real name, so I'm not connected to that in any way.
What times a week do you stream now?
So I normally start around 5 p.m. and just stream until I'm just done for tonight. Usually on a minimum 7 to 8 hours minimum. Usually, I've been kind of toying around shifting 1 or 2 days, like taking one day off during the week so I can have some time with my wife, and taking Saturday off because that's her only complete off day. So I'm kind of playing around. I'm in the process of playing around between taking one weekday off and then possibly streaming on Sunday, things like that. But for the most part, you can count on me being here during a weeknight, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, and unless something comes up, and which I usually let my folks know through Discord.
Yep. Well, you heard him, people. Check the Discord for more information and the Twitch panels, I'm sure, to get final details. Thank you again for coming on down. We really appreciate you sharing your story, and I hope that your path this second time is way more successful than your first. I appreciate the heart behind this, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure of being here, and this was very fun.
Okay.
I love these podcasts and such.
Well, now you're on one. All right. Well, you have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. You too.